Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Psychology Podcast. I am your host, Daniel Karim. In my podcast, I interview extraordinary people and pick their brains. Each episode will feature a guest who will stimulate your mind and give you a different perspective on the many paths that can lead to a rich and fulfilled life. This includes their favorite books, morning routines, exercise habits, trade secrets, nutritional philosophies, and their overall take on happiness and success. My goal is to find out where those amazing people get their holistic results from, so that you and I can use their tactics and go kick ass in life as well. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy today's episode. Matt, so happy to have you. How are you today?
I'm very good. I just had a great workout with you, Daniel.
Yeah.
I'm feeling great.
Yeah, in Hamburg, the weather is not so perfect right now.
No, it looks pretty much like Lord of the Rings and the world is going down.
Yeah, we are in the middle of a storm, but we are safe, and this interview is recorded in Hamburg Schanze. So let's get started, because Matt is very busy. Matt, if people ask you, what do? What do you tell them?
Well, it's very simple. Instead of delivering babies at a hospital, I do deliver a brand new aircraft at Airbus.
Nice. How did you end up at working for Airbus?
Well, it was pretty much like much in my life, it was a sort of a coincidence. I was finishing up with university and doing my MBA program, which I did after my engineering degree. And I happened to work as a consultant for Airbus, pretty much just based on a lucky situation or a chancy circumstance. And that's where I got in touch, and this is where I stayed.
Okay, could you tell me a bit about the latest projects that you are working on right now?
Well, I've basically for more than a year now have been in a very, very operational job. So I wouldn't tell there is a big long-term project. The long-term project I'm working on is making our airline customers happy. But I have a very operational job, which means to make delivery of as many aircraft as we can do on time and on quality.
For normal people, what does it feel like to sell airplanes? Because most people sell stuff that is much more on the lower end of the echelon coming to price. How does it feel? What's the process of selling a plane that is worth millions and millions of dollars?
Yeah, well, I agree. It's a totally different feeling than selling a fridge or your used shirt at the flea market. It's you're basically selling I think the most precious piece of technology that mankind has ever come up with, a piece of technology that allows people to fly and to move. You deal with people that are very, very passionate about this and who really love flying, who love the smell of kerosene. So very special people you get to deal with, and everybody around you will be very passionate about the product. And you just try to deliver excellence while keeping in mind, of course, that what you're selling and what you're dealing with is very, very expensive.
What it's like to work for Airbus? What is, if you walk somebody through who has never spent a day at your facility?
It's really a great company, and I don't mean that because I want to. I know I'm on record, but I say that because I really mean it. So for me, always what I've based my job choices on so far in my life was three main things. And so for 30%, before you choose your jobs, you should be you should like the task you're doing, actually. You should like the job description. For the other 30%, you should be liking the people that work with you. And at Airbus, I have the benefit to be surrounded by a whole lot of great people who have their heart at the right place and who help each other out. So that's a really, really good place, and also very, very competent people. So people stay in the company a long time. They have a lot of knowledge, a lot of skills, a lot of specific engineering expertise, and it's just astonishing to learn every day and to have these people around you where you can just look up to and be impressed. And of course, the last 30% that you should always have a very strong, that should always have a very strong influence on your job choices, the leadership you're exposed to. So I benefited quite a few excellent leaders around me who give me a lot of trust and freedom to do whatever I think is good for me and for the company. And that has, if you put this all together, it really makes me happy to go there and happy to go home.
You were talking about leadership. Any particular mentors and people who influence you in a good way that come to mind?
Yes, well, I think it's just a course in the path of life that the people you bump into that you just know from the moment you meet them, they have a specific skill set of spreading sparks and light people and build people. So I've been meeting a large number of people that have influenced me, and maybe to start off with one, it was actually my first boss at Airbus, called Georg Mecke, who was a person of a kind I've never been meeting before. So a very, very heartful and really empathic person at a level I have never experienced before, and which has actually taught me that even in the very big hostile corporate world, you know, where everything's about business, you can actually have character, and you can lead with heart and empathy.
Yeah, fascinating, because what I really like about you is that you, like, for me, you are the kind of guy right now that a lot of things you do in our basketball team, you do with excellence and leadership, and it's very fascinating that you see yourself still in this learning mode position, that you are still the guy who learns at Airbus and who wants to grow himself. What was one of the first key lessons for you that you got from your mentor, or from working with people who have such high expectations for themselves and for their company?
Well, I think one of the first things you will learn when you start your job and when you grow your career is that you're useless by yourself, and it's the people around you that make everything bigger and more, and that make everything have a bigger impact and a larger impact. And you somehow need to find a way which allows people around you to rise, to shine, and to not only walk the extra mile, but start with the first mile and actually do their job, and then on top be creative and be brave and courageous, have character to challenge things and to go beyond what's expected from them. And there's different recipes how you can unleash that, of course, and what I found as a first lesson is that it's actually pretty straightforward. You can unleash a lot of potential by just being friendly and nice. So people actually, which should be very straightforward. When you look at how people for at least in the corporate world, react to pressure and forceful management, it's very different than when they just get encouragement and they get positive energy. On the short and on the long term, I think that's the way better solution.
What's the balance, though? I am obviously I never worked in management, but I'm curious about, because there's this stigma that when you work in management and when you have a position of leadership, that you kind of have to be an asshole almost, that you can only motivate people by kicking and screaming, the classical Steve Jobs example. How do you find a balance for being strict and holding people accountable without demotivating them by being too harsh on them?
Well, it's a difficult question, because so far in all of the jobs I've had, I've been surrounded by people who had emotional ownership of the task they're doing. So by themselves, they will have pride in what they do, and they will have the ambition to do it at an excellent level. And if you're surrounded by people that are gifted with this particular characteristic, it's a very easy job as a leader or a manager to make sure that's delivered. But in terms of balance, I don't know. I've never been the kind of person that shouts at people. That's just not my personality type.
Okay, interesting. What do you do at Airbus? Because, like, from a workplace, I never really heard a lot of bad words about Airbus, and friends of mine who studied there, they all had good things to say about that. How do you manage to run an operation, a company as big as Airbus, where everybody buys into the general mission? Because it seems like there are certain companies who found a mantra for the entire work staff, where they really believe in, where they then in conclusion perform much better than if everybody works for themselves, and where they don't take emotional accountability for their products?
Well, I think how does it work? I think you just need to spread, and this is not my job, of course. I'm not a C-level executive, very far from that. But you need to make sure, as top management, to agree what is the right DNA for your company. So, what kind of values do you want to base your daily work on? And then, of course, you need to make sure that the entire organization, from the very top level to the very bottom, buys into that set of values and is aligned to work and respect these values. So in our company, the values could be that we value honesty, and we value agile ways of working. So we will be flexible to react to different business opportunities. We will be flexible and adapt our style of way of working if we deal with different individuals on the customer side, on the employee side. So we will be aware that the whole business world is made up of individuals, and everybody may need a different choice of words and a different style of communication.
We talked earlier in the gym about, you walked me a bit through the numbers of Airbus, and just really blew me away. Could you tell a bit about that, and what happens when you sell stuff that is worth millions or even billions of euros, and you make a mistake? What happens if you or your team has not delivered on time, and this has caused maybe another partner to sue you for millions of dollars?
Well, of course, it's a big responsibility which you enter into when you know that the product you're dealing with has list prices that go way beyond triple-digit million numbers. But again, this is not a one-man job. It's the job of a collective where many people have been involved in the process before you even got started. And there's still a lot of people after me in the chain who's going to take care of that aircraft in service once it's in airline operations. So it's a collective effort, and you're just one element of that chain, which is valuable, of course, but it's not. It doesn't give you anything unless you consider the whole chain. So the system is set up in a way that you have smart people around you that will help you anticipate risks, and in the end, it's your call to make sure that all risks, everything that could go on track, is heard as early as possible in the process, and make sure that responsive action is initiated or taken. But the business relationships I've been dealing, and we've overcome and faced many challenges, problems, and different difficulties. But what I've learned is that on every side of the business, it could be on the supply chain, could be towards the customer, could be internally, just talk about it and involve everybody in finding a solution, and make people involved in finding the right response plan, the right game plan to deal with problems, and they will be okay with it, yes.
Has this job changed you personally also? Because at a certain point, like when I would visualize myself in your shoes, there seems certainly to be some kind of pressure involved. So what kind of personal changes have you gone through since you raised your own standard of excellence, so to say?
Well, the biggest change for me was in my previous job. I basically was some sort of one-man show. I was doing project management and.
What company?
For Airbus. It just was in a different internal position, and you would be the guy who's accountable in the end, and who's initiating a lot of stuff and making a lot of stuff happen. But I think that now that I'm actually doing aircraft deliveries, and this is an operation which in the end is managed by a team of 10 to 20 people, depending on the scope, really the last final bit, as we're approaching the close, or maybe even 30 people. I think the biggest lesson was to step back and let people do their job without interfering too much. So just trust people that they're aware of their responsibility, and trust people that they're gonna do their job.
Amazing. Looking back, when you were 16 or 18 years old, what did you want to be? What was your plan for life back then?
Oh, at 16 years, I was freaking lost. I did not know. I always liked airplanes, but I liked trains as a kid as well. So I was always tending towards becoming somewhat of an engineer or dig into some technology or engineering field. But coming up with the job profile, I could never have thought of doing the job I'm doing right now. So I was more interested in my heavy metal guitar back then rather than thinking about job profiles.
For people who are not here with us right now, Matt just we have a guitar here, and and Matt just grabbed it and played a bit. It was really nice. Where do you think was that fascination for airplanes and trains come from? Because for me, like, traveling is a big part of what I'm working on right now, because like working remotely as a psychologist, as a digital nomad, is really my dream, what I want to accomplish. And there seems to be some magic evolved around like transporting fast and walking freely around the world. What is it for you that pulls you towards this direction of work?
Well, I think it's admiration, first of all, for technology, for fascinating technology. If you look at the combustion chamber of an aircraft engine, there's probably temperatures way beyond 1800 degrees Celsius that happen, and that somehow get more than 100 tons vessel into the air and carry hundreds of people safely. At a very, very high speed. So that's just a lot of.
Do you clap when you arrived?
I did. But unfortunately, ever since I've been traveling by air a lot, it has somehow lost a touch. But of course, for the next Mallorca trip, if the mood is right, I would. Of course.
When we do our team trip. So everybody from Altona who's listening, Mallorca is in the planning. One more question, then we move to the next section. Outside of business and your job, where do you geek out? What's like another guilty obsession of yours?
Well, something I really miss, but I have been into for the last 10 years, was actually quite nerdy as well. It was programming, so I was programming quite
Hacker man.
Hacker man, but I was never actually a really, really good programmer, but I just like to explore different things and concepts and different programming languages, so I liked to get nerdy with that.
Then you had a short endeavor in software.
Yes, I was running, while I was studying, I somehow was brute forced by a class to get interested into computer science and programming, which I didn't really like at the beginning, but soon I started to like it, and I just created my own software consulting business, and soon got in touch with different companies that I served with software products from A to Z, and worked with a great collective of people to develop software, yes.
Do you believe that at any point in your life you will ever found something again?
Could be possible, yes.
Could be possible.
Sure.
In what niche would that be? Software again?
Software is definitely something that I really, really like, but I guess it's more the application that's interesting. So the business opportunity that comes with digitalization or new technology or new software. I will never be the backroom hardcore coder with cliche coder with very thick glasses. I'll never be that guy again.
For people who never saw Matt, I have a gag that I tell a lot of people, is that he is the real life Harvey Specter.
Come on, no. Because I'm way too nice for that.
They look, yeah, but you look like him a bit. And so you don't look like the typical ambassador for Nerd Nation, I guess. Okay, let's move on to the next section. There are 3 more sections interview. The next section is about like happiness and success questions.
Oh.
Sounds very cheesy, bullshit artistry, but I'm interested in that. And the part after that is about habits, about your morning routines. And then I have a short questionnaire where you just do a rapid fire session and speak what's on your mind.
Very good.
Okay, first question. If Nicolas Cage would come to dinner, what would you cook for him?
What would I cook for Nicolas Cage? Oh my God, he's from the US, so probably something very, very simple. I've turned vegetarian this year, so it will probably something I also like. I think my vegetarian lentil spaghetti is very good.
Lentil spaghetti?
Yes, that's what I would serve him, yes.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Can never go wrong with pasta.
How did you end up eating less meat? Is it like for you a health choice, or is it more a moral thing for you, or both maybe?
Well, I've been gradually decreasing my meat consumption over the last years, and I just gave it a full stop back in January this year, so half a year ago. Well, I guess I was a victim of one Netflix documentary that I watched that really that brought me over the edge.
What was the name of the documentary?
It was What the Health. It's a very good one. I can recommend that, but it may make you vegetarian.
What the Hell was the name?
What the Health.
What the Health. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
so it talks about what the impact on the environment is of meat production. A lot of things you see behind the curtain. What the impact actually is on your body. That it may be beneficial to inflammation. So it looks at different aspects of how your health could improve if you would lower your meat consumption.
Inflammation is really one thing that is not being advertised enough in Germany. There are like so many bad consequences of living with chronic inflammation in your body. They can go as deeply as causing depression, for example, because the entire energy of your body is used to fight this inflammation instead of you having more energy to kick ass in life. Okay, next question. Matt, what would constitute a perfect day for you?
A perfect day? Well, I like my job, but I think a perfect day would mean that I will take off at right after lunch. No, of course. No, a perfect day would, of course, I'm not the super early riser, so if I have the choice, I'd rather sleep in for an extra hour, have a good healthy breakfast, go to do some very productive work, and get off and get on the court and play some basketball with my buddies. That would be a perfect start into it.
Yeah, this is how we met actually.
Yeah.
What does basketball mean for you? How did you end up playing basketball?
I thought about this a couple of weeks ago, and I realized that basketball basically was the one constant thing that has been with me ever since I was 5 or 6 when I actually started playing. Early. So I've never really stopped playing, and I'm 32 now, so it has been with me for almost 25 years, and that's a great thing. It has been my permanent companion and something, a passion that I still try to get better at. So. And that I still put a lot of learning effort into, and that I really just enjoy. So you can put me on the court with a very bad mood. If I play for 2 hours, I'll be in a perfect happy face mode right after. So I know it's my happiness booster.
It is. For me, I think playing basketball was the most single important therapeutic choice of my life. Like there's something about that. You go inside the gym and you just focus on this one thing, and you get a break from all the other shit that's going on in your life, and you have also you see that you are growing in some way, that you're getting better, that you're getting stronger, that you're learning something new. And sometimes in life it is not so binary that you get better at things fast. When you found a company, for example, it may take years before you see the true fruits of your work. With basketball, it's such an honest discipline. You can train hard for a week and you are a different player. Like this always really fascinates me. Yeah. So how did you end up in Altena as well?
Yeah, well, I was playing for another team. You know, every city I moved to, I've been living in a couple of cities. Every city I moved to, the first thing I do is I look online for a basketball team. So I did the same team when I came back to Hamburg in 2012.
You saw our website.
No, and actually I didn't. I was just spending some weeks, because I didn't have an apartment here. I was spending some weeks with my grandma, who lives in Hamburg-Horn. Shout out to her. She's a great person.
Yeah. Shout out to Matt's grandma in Hamburg-Horn. If you're listening to this, you're awesome.
She doesn't speak English, by the way, so but I'll tell her. And yes, and there was a gym very close by, so I took just the local club and I joined that. But it was well, not the most successful team, and it kind of dissolved at the end of the season. And some people, among the 8 people that were in the team, 2 people decided to join Altena, Toby and me actually.
Toby?
Yes, he was my early buddy. Yeah, he was my early basketball encounter in Hamburg.
So I saw him yesterday.
And he introduced us. We got introduced by a guy named Pat to the Altena team, and immediately fell in love with the guys. It was good.
Yeah. For people who don't know our team, I'll put some links in the show notes. We are basically like what's the name of the old movie? Like Indiana's of Cleveland. Like
the Cleveland Indians. I don't know.
Cleveland Indians. Something like a bunch of
Old farts.
Of old farts who can't really play anymore, but who still think they are badasses and who are just doing a bunch of stupid stuff together.
That's pretty much
lots of insulting goes on in our team. It's awesome. Matt, when you think of the word successful, what person comes to mind?
Oh, person comes to mind. Well, success can be defined at so many different layers. Wow, that's a big one. I could be totally abstract and tell you that I find Barack Obama as a person that has really impressed me and been very successful at having a great time for 8 consecutive years in the highest office that we have on the planet. Has really impressed me, but success can also be measured on a very different scale. I just spent a week in Spain with my best buddy from the kindergarten, Max, that's his name, and he's been very successful at just creating a very beautiful and young family, and just will be celebrating the first anniversary of his daughter very soon.
Beautiful.
So success is something that I measure way beyond business success. So.
Yeah, this was one of the reasons why I even started this podcast, because I was not so sure what my personal definition of success was. Because for me, how do you measure a guy, for example, who lives in his van and who is a climber, who does everything for his passion and who's happy every day, and compare them with the person who maybe runs an entire company but who doesn't really like it that much? I think it's a very personal definition for what we look for, and it gives a lot of insight about what's important to ourselves and what our values are, I think.
And I think, well, the biggest measure for success is something that you have to look at an individual scale. You have to personally assess whether you're successful or not, but it strongly correlates with happiness. So if you do something that makes you happy, you are successful in that part of your life.
If I would have asked you the same question, but like, what kind of person do you think of when I tell you the word happiness? What person would have come to mind then?
Happiness. Well, a very happy person for me is.
Yeah, you're a Smurf.
No, maybe one of the most cheerful and happy persons I know would be Sarah, a friend I know from work, and she's just shining all the time, and she's really enjoying every single aspect of her life. Although she's had some few ups and downs. Yeah. But she's just flourishing in her mother role right now, and she's you can never tell that she's not very happy. So.
Yeah. That's nice, beautiful answer. Okay, imagine you're doing a crazy experiment with a psychologist, and this experiment is really unethical. And the reason you do this experiment is to become depressed in a short amount of weeks. What do you have to stop, and what do you have to do in order to feel like complete garbage after this experiment for yourself?
Oh, complete garbage. I've been feeling like complete garbage right after I had my knee injury, and it was due to the fact that I basically was sitting on pardon my French, on my ass on the couch for 4 weeks and not able to move, not able to really take showers, and you just feel like garbage very, very soon. So. I strongly believe that feeling well, feeling good, feeling strong is so much related to the things you eat, to the things you do in terms of activity. Could be sports, could just be general moving. So I think that the shape of your body and what you eat really impacts that very, very strongly. And then, of course, if you have very negative mental situations around you, or negative emotions around you that can drag you down, but it never has so far in my life.
From other people?
Yes, other people, just things that may make you sad in a moment. But I've been very, very lucky not having to experience very sad moments personally yet. Of course, for a couple of days, yes, for a couple of weeks, yes, but nothing that has really dragged me down for a longer period of my life. That has never happened to me, but so this is why I think that personally a much stronger impact is my personal nutrition and just what I do and sleeping well, etc. So I remember being in a very, very nasty shape, and just vacationing on Hawaii with Haley at the time. And she just managed by offering us one of the most beautiful vacations I've ever had, and making sure that we eat very healthy, that we do sports every single day, that we just have a lot of good experiences, to completely twist me from a semi-depressed December mode into a like sunshine spurring character within 2 weeks. So that's, and if you want me to get into deep depression, you probably have to do the other way around. Give me junk food, let me sit on the couch, let a lot of bad weather happen, and put some bad people around me, and I'll be
I totally agree.
Not be happy anymore.
I was just about to ask you about the moment where you had this sort of awakening for yourself, that you see the correlation between your mental state and your physical state. So that was really a nice explanation, because it is really like most people don't get that. Like the way you feel is so much correlated to your metabolic condition that you have at the moment. You really are what you eat, or you even further, you are what the food is eating that you're eating. We talked earlier about that I should eat less junk meat. I'm definitely gonna follow up on this. Okay, Matt, let's go to the third section.
Sure.
Third section is about habits, a bit about psychology. What do the first 60 minutes of your day look like?
Oh, they can be super different. If I can afford it, I'll have a long sleep.
What is a long sleep for you?
It would be until 7:30. That would be
half past 7.
That's my premium time. Yeah.
Okay.
If I can sleep that long, I'm very happy.
In the morning.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
So usually it will start a little earlier. I have a very short breakfast at home, if at all. So.
What do you have for breakfast?
I might have a banana, or I might just have some granola with some little yogurt, some fruit. I try to eat some fruit in the morning. I'm not super hungry usually. And then I just run in auto cockpit mode and in autopilot mode, and I just take my shower, brush my teeth, etc., etc. I get dressed and get out as soon as I can.
Do you shower cold or do you shower warm?
Medium temperature. I don't like very hot showers, but the very cold ones just get me off track.
Okay.
I'm more of a cozy person. Yes, and then I need half an hour to get out of the house. And then I remain flexible to choose the way how to get to work. I can use car sharing, I can use a bicycle, I can use the subway. So depending on what people I want to bump into, if I want to be myself, if I want to do some activity in the morning, if I just rather want to spend some time on my smartphone, that's somehow influencing the choice of commuting in the morning. And
do you listen to music in the morning?
Yes, I try to.
What's like your typical get up for the day music?
My get up for the day music. So if I feel super fit in the morning and I wake up to a beautiful sunny day, maybe a little bit more funky, so putting on some rhythmic music, but usually I like a kind of a slower start, so I'll listen to very good guitar players or bands such as the TThe Trucks band, which I really admire. I've been listening to a lot of Leon Bridges and Robert Cray lately, so fantastic singers and blues players. Yeah.
Nice, gonna check them out. What is the last hour of your evening look like?
Yeah, that's a very good one. The last hour of my evening. So I try in the evening not to spend too much time at home, because as soon as I sit down on my couch, it just has a magic gravity force, and I get tired very soon. So once I hit my butt touches base with the couch, I really get tired, and it can go very fast. Yeah. So usually I will be out meeting friends, meeting great people, having dinner somewhere, or cooking for myself, or doing some sports. That would be included in this last hour, but the last 30 minutes definitely are chilling out and falling asleep quite fairly fast. Yes.
Any habits that come to mind when you think of stress reduction?
Stress reduction. So I don't feel like I am a very stressed person, although I tend to work quite a bit.
All the time.
I don't know if it's something that I just do or that I have learned over the course of my life, but things that could potentially stress me, I just mentally stay away from them. So I have some sort of safety barrier between my job and how I feel. So I cannot remember many times that I've come home stressed from work. So once I leave the office, I know I'm not at work anymore. It's just a freaking job. It's not more. Even if you're a highest level manager, it's just a freaking job, and there's so much more to enjoy in life. And I try not to take any burden home with me or thoughts about what could happen the next day. So I think having some sort of ability to cut off and dedicating your attention to different things, or allowing your body to settle down and slow down a little bit, is very important. So a magic recipe in the past has been for me, if I feel a little bit stressed, I'm a total yoga beginner, I'm a total newbie yogi, but there's great 15-30 minute sessions that will bring you within
YouTube, or what do you watch?
Yes, YouTube, yeah. There's one channel I can
Any
recommend.
particular one channel that you want to
yeah, I would say I would really want to advertise Adrian's Yoga.
Adrian's Yoga.
She's an American a girl which does great sessions, very, very beginner friendly. And I just got Max and Christina, which I just had vacation with the internet. And originally it's something that Haley too has recommended me, and we started to make some yoga sessions together. And yeah, that's a great channel and great to get started with yoga. And I'm still a total beginner, so you've seen me stretch.
Yeah. I see. It's horrible, but I mean worse. I'm the most athletic guy that is the least flexible out of any players I've ever met in my life. Do you meditate?
No, I've never even tried, and I agree that somehow out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I would like to go there once, but so far nobody has taken me there.
Yeah, I can show you some nice tips for beginners. But also I think like for us basketball is kind of meditation. I think like shutting really the outside down and doing one thing over and over and again is not so different from meditation actually.
My personal definition of meditation is just, and it is totally non-scientific, is when you just do something or feel to be somewhere which is detached from everything around you. And definitely when I play basketball, you're in that tunnel, you're in that zone. Yeah. Your headspace is completely cleared and it's concentrated on one thing, and you just, anything outside of that just doesn't happen for 2 hours. So it could be something like meditating for me, yes.
Any things that come to mind, like when are you in flow? What is the moment for you in your life where you are completely emerge in the task that you are doing?
Yeah, I tend to be a very curious person, so I'm always good at starting things. Yeah. Well, my weakness is probably to be very consistent and get all the energy and don't start the next thing before you actually finish the first one. So I tend to have a lot of ongoing projects.
I struggle a lot with
my watch. Yes. So this is really a challenge for me. So when I just get excited about could be a business opportunity, could be a new activity, a new article I read or something, a new subject I want to dig into. Could be a new stock I want to invest in. Could be something very different. So I really, when there's a lot to learn, I feel, and a lot of new things to do, that's when I sparkle. Yes.
When did you start to invest? I was very curious because you were one of the first guys that where I asked you for some advice to start investing, which I totally ignored and bought bitcoins and lost like 70% of my money. But what was the moment?
You're not the only one. Yeah.
Yep. Still proud though. Was my first investment. What was the moment that you started investing?
My father has had a very long standing and successful career in banking and finance, and particularly in asset management and investing. So I've been around that subject for a very, very long time. I started investing first, but totally in the wrong way. So I was way too shy, and I was investing in the wrong stocks with my first money I made during university. So
how old were you when you first invested?
I bought my first stock probably at the age of 19.
19.
Yes.
Cool.
Totally the wrong way. So
Yeah, but most people buy vodka at the age of 19. So I think you're still ahead of the curve.
Well, the Postbank stocks I bought back then probably were like vodka, so giving me a lot of headaches. Yes.
Yeah.
No, And then I just I didn't do it very intensively, but during the course of my MBA studies, I of course got introduced to a lot more investment concepts and different products and just a bigger understanding of how the world of investment and financing works. So that I started to pick up after at the age of 26. It became a habit. Ever since then, and I really like to talk about it. I like to do it, and yes, and I can only recommend everybody to have a look at the stock market.
For beginners, if you would give me advice where you start, and like I think what coming to investment, what a lot of people scares them away is the belief that you need a lot of money to start investing, and because of this, a lot of people, including myself, kind of shy away from it and don't get the habit starting. And I believe really the habit of investing is more important than the first results, I think you need to say. And what kind of advice would you give to people who are new to investing?
Well, there's one of the most stupid advices I've ever heard is only invest as much money as you can afford to lose. And well, I've never seen anybody lose it all. Yeah. So you may just lose a portion. So be brave and courageous to invest a little more than you feel confident. But make sure to diversify. So I would go with a selection of at least 5 funds or ETFs or stocks to pick to have a little buffer. But if you invest just in fascinating technology, I've been doing a lot of investments in semiconductor technology and in the IT sector. And I'm thinking, having a closer look about artificial intelligence now. So things that are in the press, in the media, and where you know that there is a hype, but nobody hasn't really figured out the perfect business model or opportunity for it yet. But you just know it has potential. That's usually things that are very easy to invest in through ETFs, for instance, and a great way to get started. And something, of course, where it's very difficult to lose it all. You may, and of course, one of the most advices is be patient. So I've been selling stocks too early after they had their first hiccups, but usually when companies do bad, they change their management, they restart from scratch, they gain investor confidence again, and they deliver better results after 3 years. So just be patient.
A book that comes to mind that you would recommend for people who want to know more about investing in finance and business?
Particular book, when that comes to mind, that's a hard one. I just do read a lot of online articles about it. So
from any favorite blogs, besides my own blog, of course, that you read for advice.
Besides your own blog, I like the Motley Fool.
Motley Fool?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is a very, very funny written blog. But basically, I get most of my investment. I wouldn't say advice, but my decision making is actually based on conversation with my father, for instance, or with Max. We just discuss pros and cons of different investments and share experiences. And
what kind of do you have a percentage of your income that you set aside for investing?
Oh yes, and it's quite big at the moment. So I have a very low level lifestyle. So I don't own a car. I don't own a big house. Yeah. So
you're very stoic.
All the extra money I have would be, I dedicate roughly 30 to 40% to investing.
That's a lot. That's a lot, actually. That's a lot. Okay, Matt. One last question before we move to the last section. In Airbus, you work a lot of people who really are high achievers, I feel, and you meet a lot of very interesting people in your life. Have you spotted some commonalities among people who kick ass in life that you would think other people should emulate, and that you maybe yourself take something away from seeing those people on a daily basis?
Of course, there's different things that you pick up every single day, and And I don't want to talk about skills and expertise here, because that can be totally different depending on the field you work in, but more on behaviors.
Yeah.
And I've always felt that people that are successful are people that are able to listen and not pretend to be listening, but to really listen, and
not waiting until they can talk again.
Yeah, and people that really take a few seconds time, or a few minutes, or a few days to think before they speak, and really try to think it through. That's one habit that I've definitely noticed. So you have a lot of in business, you of course meet a few characters that are good at being very loud and very extrovert, but doesn't mean it's something I would try and emulate.
Okay. Matt, we almost made it. Let's come to the last section. I call this growth questionnaire. It's a couple of questions, and you can just answer them.
Yes, fire them.
With your gut question. Matt, what is your favorite word? My
favorite word right now, it's serendipity.
Serendipity.
Yes,
that's a beautiful. What does it mean again?
It's a word I've learned recently, but I've been liking it very much. So my interpretation is that it's just that there's an element of luck to everything in life.
Beautiful. What is your least favorite word?
Probably the old German. It's according to the rules. So when rules and laws dictate and confine you, that's the bad thing. Yeah.
Okay. See, but have respect there is in you. What noise do you love?
I love the noise of guitar.
Guitar.
The sound of guitar, yes.
What noise do you hate?
I can't stand when I hear people munching. Sorry.
Okay. If someone asks you 3 things that will improve them holistically and help them to kick ass in life, what 3 things would you tell them?
Be nice, be a good person, and don't believe everything you hear.
Okay. If you would be president and you could make one book mandatory for everybody to read, what book would this be? What would the book that you recommended the most, maybe?
Oh, I think the world needs a little laughter and happiness. I would recommend one of Max Gold's books.
Max Gold?
Yes.
Okay.
They're just very short stories that make you laugh and cheerful.
Okay. If you could pick 3 people that are alive to be in your board of directors, who would they be? 3
people in my life that would be on my personal board of directors. That's also a good one. First of all, I would pick Joe, the guy you know from our team. He has been a mentor for me
yes.
Ever since I came to Hamburg, and a great influence on me.
Joe's a great guy.
He's really a great guy. Yes,
he helped me when I had the trouble. Which
trouble?
I don't want to get into trouble? Right now.
It's gonna be on the next session.
Yeah. Great lawyer though.
I would need my buddy Max on there.
Yeah.
Because he's an amazing person. And then on my board of directors, I would probably want somebody who I don't even know, who's very distant, but who has an interesting story to tell, such as maybe Jean-Claude Juncker, a true European.
Jean-Claude Juncker?
Yes.
I don't even know who that is, actually.
That's the president of the European Commission. So.
I should have known that. Okay. Next question. If you mentor 3 20-year-old, 25-year-old entrepreneurs, and you get 10% of their future income, what would you teach them in week 1?
Week 1 would be the very most important lesson for a young entrepreneur is that you have to be the master of your price. And the sole purpose of all your marketing activities should be to be able to ask the highest price for the service that you're providing or the good that you're selling. I think many startups suffer from the fact that their margin doesn't allow them to have a very healthy company, and usually it's not the cost side, but it's the price side that's disappointing.
Yeah, I can agree. A lot of people, everybody in my dorm here has their own startup, and I think people undervalue themselves very often at the opposite of the case.
If somebody tells you, and this is a very important one, if somebody ever tells you that your product is too expensive, then that's complete bullshit. A product can never be too expensive. It will just be meeting the wrong need that you have, or it will not create enough value for you to buy it.
Okay. What was the best investment you ever made, Matt? Can be time, money, energy, whatever you think of.
In terms of money, it was a little stock called Carvana, which I invested very recently in. Very, very great one. In terms of time and learning, it was my MBA program. Yes. MBA program.
Okay. 2 last questions. They're really short, and we made it. If you could put a life slogan on every coffee mug in the world, what would that slogan be?
Don't put milk in me.
Okay. Last question, then we made it. If you die, imagine you die and you stand at Heaven's Gate. What would you like to see and hear God say?
So I finally grant you the skill to dunk.
I can teach you that. Matt, it was fun. I know you're busy. Thank you a lot for taking the time to appear on my podcast.
Welcome, it was my pleasure.
And see you in the next walkout. Thank you.
See you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Well, folks, this was today's episode. I hope this could add some value to you guys. This podcast still is in its experimental phase, so please let me know what you liked and didn't like. You can let me know on my blog, danielkarim.com, or on social media. As always, thank you so much for listening and tune in next time.